Hey guys, how's it peepin'? As you can see, I'm finally back from the Blue Archive Fest and alive as well, which is great because it means I can make this video. So let's talk about all the things that I saw this time around, what I felt was actually done pretty well, what could have been improved as well, because overall, I had a lot of fun this time around in particular, but there were definitely things that feel like they could have been done better as well. It's about the same size in terms of the overall space of the event venue as in the third, not the fourth anniversary if anything, because the third anniversary used halls 9, 10 and 11 of Makahari Messe over in Chiba, and the 5th anniversary uses those exact 3 halls, as compared to the 4th anniversary where it actually uses halls 7 and 8 and then uses the meeting halls 1st and 2nd floor. All 3 of the events also use the hallway in the middle, but overall there is that slight difference with the 4th anniversary feeling like it had a bit more space, but even though it had more space, I feel like the space wasn't as efficiently used as in the 5th anniversary as compared to the 3rd anniversary where it was the same size, but a lot like with the 4th, I feel like there were things that looked really cool, there were displays that I really enjoyed, but in terms of the sheer amount of space and things people could do at the event, it didn't feel as packed as the 5th anniversary did while still having space for people to sit around and rest. And the reason why I feel like the 5th anniversary felt a lot more chill and overall more enjoyable was in part because the logistics was done a lot better. Although this one is a little weird to talk about because I feel like because of how they improved the logistics, it also caused new logistical problems that only popped up this time around, but we'll go over the problems later. Let's talk about the interesting and good stuff first. So one thing that was actually a very big change this time around was the fact that they were using a lot of the YoStar app, which is something that they did not have the last few years, where they actually now have their own official app with which they actually use to distribute the tickets as well as to deal with all of the internal tickets for the event. So this time around, because of the fact that they had the app, you didn't really have to go through E+, which is like a Japanese only service and has all of those issues. And on top of that, they also were able to do all of the ballots for the events through the same app instead of having to resort to using Line instead. So essentially all of the things that you needed to ballot for or you need to reserve during the event or before the event, it was all done through this one-stop app instead. So in that sense, everything is in a more convenient space and it makes it a lot less confusing where you need to go to do what and what to check during the events themselves. Because of the fact that they had the app, they managed to do it such that the store, the food, as well as the photo taking for the green screen pictures with the students were all actually done using a centralized app. So it made it a lot more chill overall. Like the moment I went in, instead of having to rush somewhere to queue, I kind of just immediately got on my phone and within less than 5 minutes, I could just like set up a reservation for all 3, which means that I could use the time to actively just go around and look at everything else instead. So that actually felt very relaxed once you get in, and I feel like that was such a big difference compared to the previous times that I think that that was one of the things that made it feel a lot more enjoyable as well, simply because there was more time to go around checking stuff out or getting into the queues for the activities instead of actually being stuck into multiple queues for all of the other essentials as well. The new events were also pretty cool, I have to say. Like they were a lot more high budget feeling than the previous years, and they also felt a lot more interactive on an individual level instead, because all this time they have largely been having events where you kind of all just squeezed into a large space and you all just kind of had to move around within a large space, which, you know, there's always the issue of when everybody has to move to like the left or right within a very confined space, like for the math quiz in the 4th anniversary. All of that was very compact because you're squeezed into this really small space with everyone else instead. So they kind of got rid of the need to move around within a small space, which could cause potential, like, you know, accidents and the like. And they actually made it such that the event itself mostly had events that kind of allowed you to just like chill, relax, while also enjoying something that allowed you to get more hands-on with the individual events themselves. Like for example, the one with the Chesed, I think some of you may have seen the live streams as well, where you essentially had a mini shooting range where you actually had the little, I don't know what exact system they used, but it felt a lot like a remote in a sense, where you had the gun that you would point at the screen and then it would have a crosshair moving around, and it was kind of fun in the sense that it basically was just you and 3 other people, so like an actual like little total assault sort of thing where you 4 of you would have to take down the enemies and then like get to the final boss and then beat the final boss, and you just competed for the high score as well. It was actually just a mini total assault where the players were the ones actually doing the shooting themselves instead. So overall, that one was really cool. At most, the only issue I would have with it was that it was kind of short. Like there were only 2 waves of like enemies rushing out at you, and once you get to the boss, it's just you beat one wave, you shoot the boss, you beat one wave, you shoot the boss, and then the whole thing ends. So within maybe like 6 to 7 minutes, you'll get through the whole thing. But considering the number of people at the event, event, and the fact that, you know, you can just like go back into the queue and redo it again. And the goal is to like compete for a high score. So if you really wanted to, it's not like a high stress, long, like 10-minute, 15-minute competition where you actually had to get everything right in order to pass through. I guess in that sense, it kind of worked out that it was as short as it was. That one didn't actually have any form of reward for actually doing well or anything like that. There was no prize for having the top score or beating the top score. Instead, everybody just kind of got the same postcard over here. There's actually two of them, one for the gamers and one for the CNC as well. So overall, it's just really cool that they had both of these in a single set. So everybody would get the entire set if you actually went for it. And if you went through multiple times, you would actually be able to get multiple sets of it as well. Aside from that, there was the DJ Saori game as well, which that one I also quite enjoyed, where the game was basically hosted within a space, kind of like the previous ones where you all had to squeeze into a very restricted part of the event. But instead of having to move around, you basically scan a QR code on the side screens or on the main screen. Then you will basically use your phone to play the game instead, while the character was focused on the screen itself. So this kind of made it a lot easier for people to actually see what was going on, I feel like, because like with the previous two, especially the quiz question as well as the one with the mathematics question, I feel like if you kind of had issues with like eyesight for any reason whatsoever, like maybe your glasses broke on the day itself, you might be shit out of luck because it's really hard to then actually see what is going on the screen that might be fairly far away instead. Or if you're just in a very bad spot, you just may not be able to get close to the screen to the first place. But because of the fact that it was just all on your phone instead, you kind of just like move it around to ensure that you could actually see things very closely and in a way that is more comfortable as well. The game itself was fairly simple though. All you really had was Saori would basically play like 3 to 5 seconds thereabout of a song or a BGM track, and then you were given a multiple choice of 4 potential answers for what the song title is. The funny thing is that with this one, the hard questions, as they called it, were all of the BGMs, especially the ones that you don't really typically hear a lot, the less iconic ones at the battle or the specific like story segment BGMs, and then the easy ones were all the vocal songs instead. But I don't know why, like for me, I actually found the vocal songs to be the ones that were more difficult to actually get the name of, and I feel like that is in part because of the fact that I'm not very good with names in general. So like even with the songs, like sometimes I don't remember the name of the song even though I remember the song. It's a problem, especially when I go to the karaoke, if in fact, because like sometimes I'll be like, I really want to sing the song but I don't remember what it's called. And the issue is that when it comes to the multiple choice, with these songs with vocals, it's a lot harder to guess the name, in part because I can't use deductive reasoning either, because when I listen to the song and I look at the titles, sometimes the titles may link to like lyrics in the song or the character of the song instead, and the title itself may be something that links to that rather than the instrumental. So with only a 5-second clip of the songs, it was actually really difficult. Like there were actually times where I just ended up getting all of the vocal ones wrong and all the BGM ones right instead, because the BGM ones, the names were all very fitting. Is something I realized with this event. Like thanks to the event, because of this specific quiz, I realized how well the titling of the BGMs actually are, because it was actually really easy for me to listen to a BGM and just like infer from that what the title is. And like those, the hardest ones they call it, were the ones that I tended to get right because of the fact that I could listen to it and be like, yeah, this sounds like this, and it was almost always right at the time. So pretty cool. I actually enjoyed that a lot, in part because of the fact that especially when it came to the BGM, it's a lot more, unless you're one of those people who really just remembers every single one of them, it's a lot more deductive reasoning, and yeah, it was kind of fun as a result due to that. The reward you got for getting the questions right, it's a little bit more difficult for me to show because of the fact that it's a really small camera reel that I don't know if this would even like show up if I tried to show it on like the camera here. So like if you got even one question wrong, you would get one of these two. As you can see, it's like colored reels of the scenes and the CG from the DJ Saori event that happened in game as well during summer. But yeah, you only get one of these two if you got one of the questions wrong, and you will get a set that comes with both if you get an entire set of questions correct. I think out of all of the times I did it, I got the second half of the quiz questions, the BGM ones, right the most. So that was really funny because of the fact that like Saori kept telling me those were the harder ones, but I guess I was already hard enough during the event. Aside from that, with the giant balloon displays that they had as well, they brought back both the Parozilla one as well as the Keychains one. I feel like those two are just the most iconic one, especially because of the Volume F as well. So those were the ones they chose to bring back. It's a little bit of a shame that they never really brought back the ones from all of the previous events as well, especially compared to the 3rd anniversary where they actually had the long line of all of the different bosses as well. Like Greg was one I really liked, but they didn't bring back that one either. I get why they didn't, because those take up a lot of space and they do like provide very little in terms of things that people can interact with. It's something that someone might look at for maybe like 10 to 15 minutes tops and then walk on and like go about the rest of the event. So they probably realized that there were much better things they could use the space on, and so they decided to cut it down. I get it, although it really is just unfortunate they didn't just make the space bigger or get more space to display these as well. That said, they did have a new one this time around for Gabara as well, so that was pretty cool. They had him a little further away from the other two who were set apart from each other in a bit of a battle pose, but the one for Gabara was actually pretty well done as well. Like I do like the details that they put on all of these, especially when it comes to the back of the enemies as well, since for many of them, especially like Gabara for example, you really don't get to see the back much in game, but it was all like fairly well designed. You actually had a little bit of the battle like wear and tear as well designed, and so for a balloon that was all really cool. Needless to say, they brought back some of the other stuff as well, such as the artist bar, the one for the official artists as well as the producer and the rest of the people participating in the development of the game to write all of their well wishes and like all the congratulations and the art that they were presenting for the event itself. And they also had the one for fans to draw whatever they wanted to on as well. And yeah, both were just really fun to walk through and look at, like especially the fan one. It's kind of crazy to see the kind of stuff that people get up to on the spot on the day itself, since a lot of the art actually ended up being really good. And yeah, even for the official artists, some of it, like the Izuna one in particular, the fact there was this full colored shikishi on the spot there was just like so good as well. So it was really cool to just look through all of that. And on top of that, the DJ performance as well. I mean, there isn't as much for me to say about that, since that one, you can kind of see it all for yourself as usual on the VOD for the live stream of the event itself. And yeah, it's a lot harder for me to just explain what was so good about it. You probably get a better feel of it yourself from watching it and listening to the music itself. Although, like personally for me, I do find being on the spot and this kind of live performances to be something that's really enjoyable. I know that it's something that can change a lot and really varies a lot depending on the person, but being on the spot and being able to feel the drums, the bass, like with your body itself, there's just a very different vibe to it. So I actually spent, like, even though on day 2 I was really exhausted, I spent a little part of it just jumping around in there as well. Also, they brought back the parallel race, which is one that they actually took up for the 4th anniversary, surprisingly enough. Or maybe surprising to me because of the fact that they did it first in the 3rd anniversary, where they had like parallel race horsing there, where you had like a little ticket, you know, one of these where you had to like fall in the little like thing to actually guess like which of them you thought was gonna win, and then you just do the race and all of that, and you just watch it like you're like playing Uma Musume or something. They actually took that up for the 4th anniversary, but they had it at Comic Cat, which was the thing that I found to be the most bizarre. Not this recent Comic Cat, but in one of the previous Comic Cats after the 3rd anniversary, and I found that to be such a bizarre thing that they took it out from the 4th anniversary. In a way, it was probably good since it gave more variety, since they could introduce all sorts of other different events with the different amount of space that they had as well. But even though they actually brought it back this time, they didn't just rehash it, and that's one thing I actually thought was really cool. They didn't just recycle the parallel race, which was what I was initially afraid they would do when I first saw that it was coming back, because for the one in Comic Cat, it was just recycled for the most part. But this time around, they actually like ramped it up a lot more. Like the racetrack itself was actually better designed. Everything was in higher definition. They actually had someone who was even more fit for the job to be like on stage just hyping people up and trying to do like the racehorse announcer thing. And they also added in 3 models for the supplementary class group gang, you know, like for Hifumi, Azusa, as well as Hanako and Koharu. Like they all got their 3 models like also in the race itself, and they were actually added in with, like, to add like more variation, like where they would stand and cheer is different. Like when Parallel wins, like Hifumi gets super excited and all of that. Like they added in all of that, as well as new animations for like when the Parallel and friends actually got their energy up and like were actually gonna like push on to the end, like those that activate their like Bankai or what the fuck you call it. All of them like had different animations, and I thought that the addition of all of that actually made it a lot more interesting to watch. Like even when I wasn't in the race itself, I actually found myself coming back just to see what the variations were, because it wasn't just like a small thing of watching the friends race, but just seeing how the characters would interact, how the different superpowers would interact with each other was also interesting, because instead of it almost always being the one who activates it wins, they actually started to add in twists to all of that as well. So you kind of had a little bit of a story going into each one, and yeah, for each one you actually had a ticket like this, which specifically demarcates the day, what time, as well as what race number it was, so you could remember exactly which race you actually got. This design is pretty much the same as the 3rd anniversary, so there isn't too much for me to talk about there. Although over here they did add in the 5th anniversary logo instead. A lot like with the DJ Saori event, with the Hifumi one as well, if you won, you actually got more stuff. Although with this one, it's more of an RNG thing since you only have a 20% chance to win. But if you do win, you get like these 2 stickers as a set instead. If you lost, you would only get one of them. So that's the 2 set variation that you get instead. And I do think that it's kind of really cute just seeing the 4 of them like getting all energetic like that. So yeah, overall it was quite a cool thing that they actually had this as well. On top of that, if I'm not mistaken, these are actually different from the ones at the 3rd anniversary. So they actually did, do the bare minimum of printing out new variations for the collectibles as well. So props on them for not just like actually getting lazy with it, which was one of the things that I was really worried about initially before actually going to the event, seeing that the location was the same again and the price was going up. A part of me was really worried that they were just gonna laze out and just like redo everything. So seeing them actually put the effort to change all of this, it made me a little relieved and a little happy as well. Also, as with every year when you first enter the event, they kind of had some free stuff that they gave away. So this time around, you had the some of the stuff was fairly standard. Like you had the wristband, one for each day. So like you would get the corresponding one when you enter. This is the one for day 2 here, as you can see. That's the 2026 and everything, the date. So this was day 2, which I think is interesting because when you compare it to the last 2 years, I think like in 2024, day 1 was blue, and in 2025, day 3 was the one that was actually blue instead. So it actually varied a lot depending on the year, what color it was. So that was interesting to see. Aside from that, you actually got a little like empty notepad. It's made to look like the in-game notepad, except haha, it's an actual notepad. Get it? Haha, hehe. Notepad. People write stuff nowadays still, right? We still use pens. I do at work at least. So I'm not gonna use this though, but like yeah, you have the 5th anniversary like logo down here in the corner. And yeah, that's about it. It's a fairly normal notepad, which is still more than they gave out in the last few years, where they just gave you like a single wet tissue and all of that. So like this was pretty cool. But more importantly, they also brought back the mask. Yes, they actually brought it back this year. They didn't give this out during the 4th anniversary, only the 3rd one. And apparently like some people were kind of bummed about that. So they actually brought it back. So now everybody can be the we are funny Doodle Man. Okay, yeah, this I don't want to accidentally break it because like putting this on is a little tough. But for the most part, these were the 2 things that you actually got on the day itself, aside from the wristbands as well. But yeah, on the end of day 2 specifically, they also gave out something really cool because after they announced that Key was coming on and all, they actually gave out like a little flyer, like newspaper article looking thing, and I thought this was really cool. Which it makes sense that they only give this out on day 2. Like on the back, they actually have like a little like mini interview with the Kivatos Journal, I think, where they actually like did a little interview with Kay and the Gamer Club about like Kay getting released. It's a little bit fourth wall breaking, but I thought this was really cool that they actually gave out something like this, since they did this for the 3rd anniversary as well, but I don't recall them doing it last year, at least during the 4th. So seeing this come back as a nice little thing for the celebration was kind of cool. I know some people actually framed up the one for the Hoshino like flashback event, so like seeing it come back in this form for Kay was actually really interesting as well. It feels rough for I feel like for the people who only managed to attend like day 1, because they wouldn't get this, but yeah, they only did it on day 2. So all I can really say to that is pray you get the last day, I guess, because usually you may not get as much as goods on the last day, but you do get some funny stuff like this instead. One other thing that's a little different between this year and the previous year for 2025 was that 2025 was 3 days. So the event was a little bigger in the sense that you had like the 2 buildings, but aside from that, you also had it being 3 days, which I thought at the time was a good thing because it meant that more people could attend. And if they distributed things well enough, it means that people on each day will probably be able to get some stuff, so you were less likely to miss out on things overall. And one thing I kind of missed about it was the fact that because it was 3 days, depending on the days you got, you actually had more time to rest, and I felt like that was such a big thing as to why I felt very awake for the most part for the event, because I got day 1 and day 3. So I went for day 1, and then after day 1 was over, I could take a rest on day 2, stay home and sleep and get ready, and then day 3 be fresh and ready to go back out again. But this time around, because the fact that I was back to 2 days like in the 3rd anniversary, I ended up having to wake up at 5 a.m. on both days, so it was a lot more tough in that regard as well in the end. But overall, while it was shorter in the sense that 1 day was gone, the event hall, I think, is slightly bigger, and they maximize the space a lot better as they kind of made the eating area as well as the store, the Angel 24 store, slightly smaller and more compact because of the logistical changes, that there was actually space for them to put a rest area on the outside as well, so people could sit in the shade near the store and like just rest and chill. So overall, they could fit more people in who could just relax around. There's even a TV at the rest area as well, so it kind of worked out a lot better in my opinion. They brought back the quiz rally as well. This time around, the execution is kind of similar, although with the quiz rally, the questions as well as the students who would ask the questions and the entire story built around it is very different. So for those of you who don't know, every single time that they have held it so far the last 3 times, every time one of these events happened, you basically had a like story segment for the event specifically. So for the 5th anniversary, it has its own event going through where you go around the points and then you interact with the students who are supposed to be there asking you the questions, so on and so forth. So you actually get mini story cutscenes that happen at each point, and a lot like the 4th anniversary, they use a different, I'm pretty sure it's not the in-game like cinematic editor thing, they have something else different that they use for both of these events. So in terms of the execution, it was fairly similar, so there isn't too much for me to say about it other than it really feels like the movements are a lot sharper than they are in game, and some of the movements like the characters transitioning in and out of screen were a lot faster, and like it makes me wonder why they don't do some of this in-game as well, because it actually feels more natural at times, to be honest. Overall, for the questions this time around, I feel like some were actually really difficult and some were really easy at the same time. Like there was a proper mix, but the difficult questions kind of worried me a little because it kind of assumes that you're really good at searching for information or already knew like some of the trivia that was a little more niche, like which episode of Magical Girl Heavy Caliber was the one called The Ambition of Era and the Qualifications of Justice. What episode of Magical Girl Heavy Caliber was that from? And yeah, I think in the event it was mentioned that it was like episode 51, but like I don't know how the fuck you were supposed to like Google that information well if you weren't really like someone who's versed with like searching for information to begin with. I can imagine for some people it might have been really painful to try to figure that one out. But yeah, some of the questions were fairly easy, especially if you weren't Japanese. Like I think there was one that was like what's the English word for seigi, which is justice? So they're just like expecting you to spell the word justice in English instead, which is like, you know, it's like I feel like people coming from the English sphere global side of things will probably be fine with it, although I can imagine there being people in Japan who would struggle with it. And this is something I realized with the BGM segment as well in the previous event, was that because most of the BGM titles were in English, for the Japanese people who didn't know English, it was actually really difficult because you're basically just guessing without knowing what the fuck you were guessing at all. So that was kind of funny as well. The interesting thing this time around as well though is the fact that they didn't have different stickers for day 1 and day 2. I think this is the first time they actually did that, because even with the 4th anniversary, even though both days had different questions and like you weren't guaranteed to be able to get both days tickets because both days are kind of balloted separately, so they actually even then made the stickers different, but this time around they were all the same. So like the 2 days worth of tickets, as you can see, they all use the same design. So I think that is good for the people who only managed to get 1 day, because you only needed to do this once and you didn't have to worry about getting FOMO'd by the event itself. So like anything that reduces the amount of FOMO that people have to suffer, I think is really good. So this was a change that maybe feels a bit bad for people who went for both days, but I think it was a good decision overall. Aside from that, the photo taking thing was back as well, you know, the one I think I've showed the pictures before that I took the last 2 years. It was back. With this one, there isn't too much to change. Like it's the same thing except that it adds in more of the students up until the most recent event. So like Izuna was in, so I did get my dress Izuna picture here. Here you go. And I also did get one with Naru. I look like I'm very confused as to where I am. I don't know if these are very visible when I put them on screen like that, but they do have the digital copies as per every single year, so you actually get the picture as well as a QR code that lets you download the pictures digitally as well if you want. So good for people who want both a physical memorabilia as well as a digital copy to preserve, because for me usually I would put these into the little binder that I have, and then I'll keep the online copy as well, so it's nice to have both. I'm actually kind of glad that this picture of Izuna here worked out, because when I took it I completely forgot it was a green screen behind me, and it may not look like it in this picture because of how dark it is, but this is actually a green jacket as well. It's not the same shade of light green, it's more like a dark emerald-ish color instead, so it kind of worked out. Thankfully it didn't get like fucked at all by the green screen and the way it was taken taken. So yeah, whoops, but yay. But yeah, I guess that's most of the stuff. There is one last thing. They did have new Gachapon acrylic keychains as well, and you know, as per every year, I made sure to get some. So we can open them on here together. Are you guys ready? I'm so excited. Oh god, I feel my neck muscle pulling from me trying to open this. Why is it so... I feel like the same thing happened last year. This is not a bit, by the way. I don't know why it's not working. We had the same thing. Like, it's actually turning, but like there is a little gap here. Like, it is opening bit by bit, but I don't know why it's not working. I feel like the same thing happened last year, and I'm getting a bit of deja vu from this. Fuck. Fuck. No. Oh no, it's sealed back completely. Oh. Okay. Yeah, it's Kiri now. Here you go. Let me open the other one as well. Oh god, it's happening again. It's worse than the first one. I'm gonna go get a pair of gloves. It's a Yuka one. I'm surprised that there wasn't a previous Yuka one, or was there? Like, I'm looking at the two and I feel like these two of all characters, especially Yuka, would have come out earlier, but I guess not. I am very confused, and I feel like I have not seen this very specific design before. That's it, we did not get a dupe, so that itself is also pretty cool. Aside from that, I guess the only other new thing is the fact that he had like the Shibaseki Ramen Tencho, the ramen store, like boss dog Shiba there as well, so that was new, alongside Arona as well as Perero and Plana and Shiroko, who are just like walking around and like doing a bunch of funny stuff here and there. Very fun to see them just walking around and derping around like that, as always. Like, just seeing the weird mascot interactions is always a very enjoyable thing, I feel like. But yeah, overall I would say those were the things that changed that felt good or for the better, or that were fun either way. There were some things that changed as well that I felt were a little unfortunate as well, like when it came to the TV displays that they had during the event, but it was just like the students talking, and like they had the messages from the students who were like talking about the event and introducing like stuff about it and just interacting and like talking to you. I really enjoyed those, but they actually reduced the number of those that there were this time around. Like, I actually went around counting, and I'm pretty sure there were only like 20 this time around, because there were only 5 screens and each one had a rotation of 4 students. Thankfully, it was all the new ones still, so that's the one good thing. You had the Hyakaryoran getting theirs, and you had Rio as well, so there were new ones there, and seeing the new ones was cool. But I really wish they brought back some of the old ones, because it was really sad not seeing Izuna around this time around. I went around the whole hall like 3-4 times, just walking around looking, hoping for the TV. I couldn't find one, so that was super sad and all. They also didn't bring back the VR thing. Like, year 3 they had the Millennium one, year 4 was the Kazusa one that everybody was crying about when they came out, apparently, because they thought it was really good. This year they had nothing, although at least with that one we did find out why, and it's because they decided to not put it in the fest, but instead to actually make it its own separate event that they are having in Tokyo, I think sometime in the future instead. So they're actually bringing back both of the previous ones and also adding in a new one as well. So I think that's really cool that they're actually bringing both back. Like, the fact that they didn't bring back the Millennium one in the 4th anniversary, and like they didn't bring back either, so people really couldn't experience the beauty of the Kazusa one, was very unfortunate in my opinion. So the fact that they're actually bringing back both and also adding in a new one so that people can experience all of these at the event that they're having separately. I mean, it would have been cool if it was part of Fest, but hey, at least people can enjoy those now as well. The one other thing I feel like it really could have been improved as well, and you guys may have already noticed it by now, that I haven't talked about the food this time around, because the last 2 times I talked about the food, how it tasted, like the stuff you get from it. This time I did get something, I guess. I have a single coaster that I got from it. In case you're wondering, yes, just a single coaster. And for those of you who have seen the previous 2 events, you probably already know what this means. For those of you who do not, for each item you manage to purchase Japanese food-wise, you get one coaster, which means that I basically did not manage to get food at all at the event in terms of the themed food. And you have to understand, I actually left my house at 5 a.m. plus on both days to get to this event in time, because for those of you who do not know like Japanese geography, especially for Tokyo area, Chiba is in the east end tip of Tokyo. There's the fuck all there except for the event halls. People usually don't go there for anything else, I would imagine, but getting there takes me more than an hour as is. I woke up at 5, I left my home, I reached the event space at 7 a.m. I got to the event space for the regular queue at 7:12 on day 1 and 7:40 on day 2. Day 2 was a little later because I kind of gave up because of how fast the food ran out on day 1, if anything. But what happened made me feel even more tilted, if anything. So we'll get into that. So day 1, I got into the hall, like entered at 9:20 there about, I think. I immediately put up the queue number reservation thing. I was like 1,800 plus in the regular queue. I could only go and get my food, as my number was only called close to 2 p.m. I got in the queue for close to 30-40 minutes, and all I could get when I reached the front of the queue was a single donut, because everything else had sold out on day 1 at that point. That's how bad it was. Even the drinks had sold out. The only thing left was the fucking donut. So all I could get on day 1, after queuing all that time, reached the front of the queue at 2 p.m. It's just a single donut left. Day 2, they actually did increase the amount of food quantity, and I feel like if I didn't give up and I went at the exact same time as day 1, I would have been able to buy like 3 or 4 things. But because I went 30 minutes later and I entered the event venue at 9:30 instead, the store completely ran out before my queue number was even called, and the 15-minute plus difference basically set me back 1,000 people in the queue. So the thing is, 1,800, I thought it would be gone. I didn't have any hopes for day 2. Day 2, it actually got to, I think, 2,500 people, and instead of the donut, it was the hot dog that was the last thing left. So at least you got to have food. But seeing it be 2,500 and me being like 2,800 made me so fucking tilted, because of the fact that it basically meant I could have gotten it if I just went at the exact same time. But I was already so exhausted after, like, you know, a whole day, sleeping at 12, waking up at 5, going to the event. It's almost like Comic Cat. So like, you know, being fatigued, I figured I could just like rest a little, you know, chill a little before going day 2. Not enough. That was very unfortunate. And I feel like that was probably the biggest logistical mess up, other than the photo taking itself as well. And this is just my speculation as someone who has been to all of these events and been to a lot of like different events and watching the logistics of these events as well. I feel like them making food photo taking and the store all a queue-based system instead kind of fucks it up for everybody who is beyond like the people who entered prior to like 9:10 thereabout. Because it's not like you enter at 9:30 or the latest. There were people I knew who only managed to enter, like they got in the queue before the whole thing started, and they only entered at 10:30, meaning that there are thousands upon thousands of people behind me who could not get a queue number because the queue numbers were also limited, and that got in like way later, which basically means like if in the first like 20 minutes there are around 1,800 to 2,000 people entering, this means that you could very well have like 100,000 people potentially in the back who could not get food as well, because it just ran out of stock so quickly. And the worst part is that it took them so long to serve the food to the initial groups of people that the people who entered later just couldn't get it at all. Because even if those people had gotten into the queue, they probably would have gotten their food after the event closed, because of how long it would have taken to serve all of the people. So that was pretty bad. The photo taking as well, the ones I mentioned before, the queue on day 2 was fine. Day 2 was completely fine. Everybody got to take their pictures, so they improved and fixed the issue with it, kind of like with the food. They did identify and fix the issue, although with the camera, the photo taking, they did it a lot better in my opinion, because the issue was completely resolved. But on day 1, there was such a bad congestion for the camera, the photo taking, that I think from around 2 p.m. onwards, the queue was so flooded that they had to constantly reject people multiple times per hour and tell them that you just could not kill anymore. There were too many people in the queue and it would congest too much of the surrounding area, and they had constantly pushed people away. And I'm pretty sure by the end of the event, there were a fair number of people who could not take a picture at all because of this. And I feel like this ties into the same logistical issue, which is that the usage of the app for everything, while it is very convenient for ensuring that you could just like take your hands off the queuing for these things and enjoy the rest of the event, also messed up the logistics for some of these things as well, because it basically meant that if you were too late for either of these, you just would not not be able to enjoy them at all. Like the previous way it was being handled in the 4th anniversary, where food was not on a ballot system and the store was, it kind of created a trade-off where basically, you know, even if you entered late, you could still just rush straight to the food because there will be people who went in, got their reserve number, and you know, they had to go to the store at that time, or they would be stuck at the further back when like other people's numbers get called. And this trade-off basically meant that it was more feasible for people who entered later to get food, because now some people were diverted to the store and you could then go and get your food before those people. So like if you entered at like, let's say 9:20 for example, while people who entered at 9 and got their store tickets were at the store, you could be at food and you would get your thing because you weren't stuck 4,000 plus people back in the queue. Because like, remember, the 1,800 is just for regular queue people. Everybody with the early ticket kinda got to get their food before us. They only started like serving us after those people were settled. So the regular queue food was also messed up because of the fact that there wasn't enough stock, and you were pushed so far back because of the fact that now everything was on the logistical ballot instead of you being able to just physically go there and queue for it and creating that trade-off instead. And because both of these were also on the thing together with the photo taking, what it felt like happened as well was that people were prioritizing the food and store. And so people who got the camera queue along with everything else, if all three were to simultaneously go off because you basically got all three, I feel like most people who got the three would rush to either the store or the food first, and then rush to the opposing one first, and then go to the camera last, because that's the one thing that you would expect would not run out of stock. And so, you know, you just, the general psychology is that people would just go there after they got everything else done. And I feel like that kind of was what caused the congestion on day one, because they were very conservative with the way that they released the numbers. So in the first like 2 hour plus of the event, maybe 3 hours, there were periods where there was nobody queuing for the camera thing. Maybe you had like 1 or 2 people walking through to get in, but there wasn't actually a queue. And then when you get to the later half of the event, especially after the food ran out and the store was already completely like sold out for the most part on the day itself, that everybody started to congest the camera area, and that was what caused the photo taking to be so packed that some people couldn't take pictures in the end. So what I saw happen on day 2 was basically that they accelerated the number calling for the photo taking a lot quicker instead. So instead of like slowly releasing like 200 numbers every maybe like 20 to 30 minutes, like I think by the time it was like 12 p.m, they had already called like the first like 3,000 people in. So it was a lot more accelerated for the photo taking, so that even if the people whose numbers were called were not there, it didn't matter that they weren't there, because they could just come back later, and people whose numbers got called could just quickly go in as well while they had nothing else to do with the other two. Since if you are like one of the people who were further back, like let's say like number 3,000 on all three, you probably were not going to get food because the food would run out before you got there. The store was actually surprisingly a lot faster on day 2 as well, so you would be able to get to the store, but also at the same time, because of how fast the photo taking was moving, you could get into that a lot quicker while waiting for the other two. And I feel like a lot of that improved day 2's logistical like crowd control flow. But because all three were mishandled on day 1, it kind of made that all a little messier. But yeah, as long as you weren't dealing with these 3 specific things on day 1, for the most part you were just fine. I just wish they had more food in general, because I really would have wanted to buy and like try it, take pictures of it. It looked like it was really cool. Here are the pictures of it online, because that's all I can do for you guys. I didn't even manage to get it myself. It was really sad. Here's me like getting the donut, I guess. That's about it. Yeah, but I'm glad to at least get one coaster, even though like, yeah, I wish it was better handled so that we could actually get a little more food as well. But yeah, overall, that's all the stuff that went down this time around. I'm sure most of you already saw the live stream. You saw the characters that released. Someone asked me like which character had the most hype this time around. I don't think it had any character specifically had the level of Seiya hype that the 4th anniversary had. From the cheers that I could hear physically on the spot, they were all fairly even. I think when Rio's live 2D was shown, that caused a lot of people to scream. When K was announced, that caused a lot of people to scream. When Alice did the funny like laser beam Gundam thing, that caused a lot of people to scream. When people saw Himari's belly button, I think that caused a bunch of people to scream as well. So like, yeah, everything was fairly even this time around. They picked a cast that I feel like, because of the fact that, you know, the volume was already something that people were expecting to finally get corrected, characters, there wasn't that level of like unexpected, like no one knew what was coming sort of hype, where with the 4th anniversary, because they were doing the 3D, like the entire school and all of that, where people weren't even sure like what they were getting into when the event started and which school will get featured. It came as a lot more of a surprise, and was when it was, you know, like Millennium and all of that. And then suddenly Seiya, like with the hype around people waiting for her to appear for a really long time as well, it kind of created that very extreme like cheer that happened at the time, kind of like with Nika and the 2nd anniversary. But yeah, there wasn't anything to that level this time around. Although, yeah, seeing the fact that Kay is in the game, the new Alice, the 3D spaceship, and the return of all the old mini games, I thought all of that was really cool. So overall, I think the announcements were pretty enjoyable. The biggest thing I'm worried about is the number of real life events, which basically means that if I want to cover all of them, I'll probably have to spend this a lot of money, since like there's at least 3 stamp rallies outside of Tokyo, not including the one in Asakusa over here, so that's a lot. The live performance, which I don't think I'll be able to like do a video on the live performance, but I want to go for the live performances as well. That's like more money as well, so we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, overall I had a lot of fun. The games, as I mentioned before, the level of interaction they had, especially with the shooting range one, that was really fun. Being able to directly like move and have your movements directly like influence the game and the end result was really cool, other than it just being you going in and like doing a quiz and then getting stuff right or wrong and then getting kicked out instead. So it was built very differently. Even with the Saori one, you stayed till the end even if you got questions wrong, and I feel like all of that created a very different dynamic of like the level of interaction and agency I felt within the game. So overall, I enjoyed a lot of it. I wish I could get the food. I had a lot of fun with everything else. To the person who gave me Tim Tams and Vegemite, I don't know if you want to be named, but thank you. Maybe one day we can go to the Pokies together, or I guess since this is not, you know, this ain't Australia, but Japan instead, we can go to the Pachinkos together. No, don't actually drag me to one, please. I don't really want to go, but yes, thank you for the very cool stuff, cause I didn't know Tim Tams even existed, and I didn't know that was a big Australian thing, so that was cool. That's it. That's all that I really have to say about the BA Fest. Thank you all for watching. I do have some access as in previous years of some of the stuff, so I will put that up on the Discord in a thread separately, so you can go there and ballot for the stuff that you want as well. The rules will be in there, so for those who want some of this stuff, yeah, you can just go give that a check out and enter it from there. If not, thank you all for watching, and thank you to the very epic people here who helped to support the channel. It's thanks to you guys that I can well, maybe not so much with this video, but I can like continue making some of the other content on this channel as well. So it's really epic that you guys are willing to support, both you guys watching and the very epic people here who support by funding some of the stupid shit I do as well. But that's it. I'll be seeing you all next time, but until then, take care and bye bye.